why we wanted to hold on this report. But the Washington Redskins, so we were going to talk about this on episode 5, that the Washington Redskins were not going to have any Native American kind of like looks or like any kind of like names or anything that could be offensive to Native Americans. So like they retired the Redskin name, which is the big news that broke. They said that they were retiring the name. They wanted to keep the same colors, but they were going to look for a name that was not so offensive. And I mean, we did have the poll up on our Twitter, but they are almost 100% going with um, like a name change. They Washington football team, they came out with a statement that if we can get it, we will put it up on the screen for you. More or less saying that they went into a review and they want to make the people around them happy. But I was watching Pat McAfee. I found Pat McAfee pretty funny. But when he was reading out, he made a good point that every time they mentioned it, they were like, "Oh, we want to make our sponsors, fans, like shareholders and everything happy." They didn't even just say that once; they said it twice, and they put their sponsors first. More or less, what you get out of that is they're doing this because FedEx was upset and because Nike took down everything from their website. Pepsi said they didn't want to do business with them. Like, more or less, because Dan Snyder said on multiple occasions that he was never going to change the Redskins name, that he was never going to get rid of that. But now that all these sponsors come out and he's not going to make any money from merchandise or anything, he's like, oh, well, maybe I got to change it. But at the same time, this might make a lot more money because now it's a whole new brand. It's a whole new name. It's a whole new, like, if you're a Washington football fan and you're going to stay a Washington football fan, because let's be real, this gives a lot of people an out if they're like, oh, my team sucked. Now they're changing the name. I don't want to be a fan anymore. But if you stay a Washington football fan, you got to buy all the new gear, the new logo. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you're probably going to have to buy because it's a whole new look. It's a whole new look. They're retiring the name. It's not like the Jets, the way they use the Titans name every now and then. Not use the Titans name, but they use the Titans like logo and look when they were the Titans. Like, Washington is never going to use the Redskins logo or brand ever again. Like, it's gone. So, like, give me your thoughts on that. What do you think? Like, is this a good thing for the NFL and a good thing for Washington to just retire and more or less just disband the name forever?
I feel like they're put in an uncomfortable situation because of their sponsors. I'm also a big fan of Pat McAfee, big Pat McAfee fans on the show. But he mentioned the sponsors, and I mean, I feel like I didn't even notice that reading, but that's 100% true. You look at what Dan Snyder said back in 2013, I believe it was. He was asked multiple times. That was another time the name change possibility came up, and he said, "As long as I'm the owner, I will never change the name." And
Yeah,
I
he
feel
said
like
that
even
multiple times.
yeah, and I feel like even if we were like, despite everything going on, I feel like he wouldn't have changed the name still, unless FedEx and Nike and Pepsi put on the pressure of like, we're not going to support you as you like while you're still using this name. So I feel like that's why the sponsors were put first. I feel like it was almost Dan Schneider's way of saying like, yeah, we're only changing our name because of the sponsors.
Like a little sarcastic remark back at him.
Exactly. But I feel like a lot of people in Washington are very like, the Redskins have been a bad team for a while now.
Yeah.
I can't even think of the last time they were competing for a playoff spot even. But besides that, they have a very, very loyal fan base, and I feel like Pat McAfee did say, there's going to be an out for some people who are looking for an out, but I feel like with the fans there who are so passionate that, you know, like, you can still wear your Redskins stuff to this, like, to the games and stuff. The name might not be the Redskins anymore, but it's still Washington football. I mean, you look at teams when they rebrand, like the Rams, for example. You still have the option to wear your old Rams logo. That's not the logo anymore. Even though the name is staying the same, like, you can still wear old stuff. I feel like it's just
Yeah,
a little
but
bit of a throwback.
I think it's got a much different, like the Rams' old look has a much different feel than Washington's old look. Like, I mean, not saying anyone's gonna like ridicule or like really fully criticize you if you show up with an old uniform to a game because maybe like you don't want to get a new one or like you can't afford a new like their new kit or like whatever you want to whatever your reason is. I don't think anyone's gonna be pissed at you, but definitely, well, there's gonna be some people. Let's be real, but it definitely has the look of like it's gone, like it's never coming back. Like you think of it now, like you go into next year, there's definitely gonna be people with the old uniform, but like in 5 to 10 years, or like I'll say like in 10 to 20 years, like it's gonna be as if like they didn't exist. Like okay, think about it this way, right? If you're like a kid now, because like growing up, you kind of like maybe you're not like huge into sports, but like you learn about the teams, you learn about like who's on what team, or you learn about like the logos and everything. Like kids now that I would say like four. Oh, we'll go with the year five and under. Like in 10 to 15 years time, they're never even gonna know that Washington was called the Redskins. Like that's just not gonna be a thing. And unless you're like big into football and you want to learn every aspect of it, you are never going to know that Washington was called the Washington Redskins. So,
Yeah, that's true. Because if you think about it, I mean, me and you were towards the younger side, I would still say. But when we were very little, the Cleveland Browns is not the same organization that the Cleveland Browns have been for the last or were for the 40 years before 2000, because they were the original Cleveland Browns organization moved to Baltimore and became the Ravens, and then like 2 years later the Cleveland Browns organization restarted. They just took on the same name. But I can't imagine a league without the Baltimore Ravens, and even the Texans. They became a team in 2002, I believe it was. Again, I can't even imagine a league without the Houston Texans and Baltimore Ravens. I feel like they've been there forever, and I feel like you bring up a good point. Like the people who are younger, that name, especially why the reason the name is changing, I don't see why fans would, unless they dig into it, they become huge fans, would even know what the Washington Redskins organization was.
yeah, exactly. And it's not going to be like this upcoming year and maybe the year after. It will be talked about like through the broadcasts and everything. It's going to be like, oh, there's like they were the Washington Redskins, or they're going to talk about how they had to change their name. But like after the first 2 years, it's never going to be talked about. They're just going to be known as like Washington, whatever they change their name to, or maybe even they go with DC. But like after the first 2 years, it's not going to be like known to be like, oh, they changed their name. They're just going to be known as Washington. Like if they change their name to the Warriors, which seems like the most popular one, but at the same time, there's like the Red Tail. Like there's a lot of names going up. Like just say they use the Warriors. Like they're just going to be known as the Washington Warriors or the DC Warriors if they go with DC. But like in like I would say like 3 years times, like I don't know why I keep adding an S. 3 years time, it's just going to be the Washington Warriors with no talk of the Washington Redskins. Like the first 2 years, they will probably every now and then bring up on the broadcast that they changed their name because I feel like they kind of have to. But after that, it's never going to be like in 5 years, they're never going to be like the Washington Warriors who were or used to be the Washington Redskins. Like that's not going to happen. It will happen the year right after, but it's just not going to happen like right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is I don't know. That's just the take I have on it. But also like you brought up like the Texans and the Browns, but like for me like I've never been like huge in the basketball. I've started watching a lot more now, but like Kevin Durant, who was drafted in 2008, right? I think it's 2008.
2008, 2009.
Wait, so he was drafted in 2009?
It's either or. I forget which one.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Somewhere in there.
He was drafted to the Seattle Supersonics, who aren't a team anymore. Like it's the Oklahoma City Thunder, but like you like think of it, like you whenever you see a Supersonics jersey, like most of the time, you don't see Kevin Durant in a Supersonics jersey. Like if you look up Supersonics, Kevin Durant, I don't believe is one of the first things that pop up. He might be, but like even when you look it up, it looks like such an older jersey. And like right now, like even the Thunder, no one talks about because the Thunder were the Supersonics, right? Like
Yes.
so, like no one talks about the Thunder, like oh the Thunder who used to be the Supersonics, like that. I don't even know if like no, I've never been like a huge fan of basketball, but like I would say I started watching like 2011 ish, probably like more like frequently. And Kevin Durant's one of my favorite players, but like he's not associated with the Supersonics in any way, shape, or form. He's associated with the Thunder or the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like and that's just what I feel is going to be the way the Washington football team is going to be known as. Like Chase Young, although he was drafted by the Washington Redskins, is not going to be known as a Washington Redskin ever in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he goes into the Hall of Fame and he stays a part of the Washington football team for his entire career, he'll be known as whatever the team changes their name to. Same with almost anyone on that team now. Anyone who played on that team last year compared to who plays on this team this year is going to be known as the new Washington. And I feel like it sounds weird to say now. I think it's good because the NFL I feel could use a new look because I feel it's been very kind of stale, kind of in a way. Like in the NBA, I feel like big players because it's so not small, but like the NFL, you have 11 people. Like we said, you have a 53-man roster. The NBA people move around a lot more, and like the bigger players move around a lot more. Like KD, Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, like they move AD. They move around a lot more than almost any other sport. Like the big names. So you see new looks, and even the Nets. The Nets had a new look 5 years ago.
Yeah, they switched to Brooklyn in a couple of years before that.
Yeah, like they went from New Jersey to Brooklyn, and they completely rebranded after that. Which, like, there's your new look. You even have like, I think there's talks of even bringing back the Supersonics. Not that it's gonna happen, but like, I also think that's a weird thing because imagine if they bring back the Supersonics. You still don't associate Kevin Durant with the Supersonics, even though he got drafted with them because he's never played with that organization.
Yeah.
But he was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics. That's a conversation for another day. But that's an interesting topic, to be honest. Because I know the NBA has talked about expanding, the way the MLS is expanding almost every year, like consistently. But it's like the Washington football team is anyone on that team is never going to be known as a Washington Redskin, unless you retired as a Washington Redskin and you are a big, like Washington Redskin name, for example, right? Like, I'm terrible with names, and I don't know why I can't think. The quarterback who broke his leg.
Joe Theismann.
Okay.
Or Alex Smith.
Well, both of them did.
Yeah. Same injury, same team. Very weird.
Well,
same leg.
Actually, the whole like conspiracy, not conspiracy, but the whole like dates and everything behind that is really weird. That if we can find the picture, we'll put that up on the screen. But like the connections made between the two of them and how they happened is insane.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was actually gonna say Joe Theismann, but I thought I was gonna say the wrong name. But like he will be known as a Washington Redskin, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
There's other players that like there's a defensive player that I can't think of. I feel like you're gonna say the name and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, that's exact. Like, there's one defensive player who just hit everyone.
Sean Taylor.
Yep, Lawrence Taylor, right?
Sean Taylor.
What?
Sean Taylor. He was safety.
But he will always be known as a Redskin. Anyone on that team that even on the team last year, oh my God, as I said, I am horrendous with names.
Dwayne Haskins.
Haskins, he's going to be known as a Washington football player, whatever they change their name to. Darius Geis, same thing. Chase Young, same thing. Like, they can go on to have great careers in Washington or DC, but they will never be known as a Washington Redskin. Never. Even though they've played a year or two under the Washington Redskin name. They're just never going to be known as it. So I think it's, as I said, I think it's a very good look for the NFL getting a new look into the league, because as I said, it's been very like stale, because the NFL doesn't really change looks that often. Like even when the Jets change their uniforms, and in my opinion, I think the Jets have really, really nice uniforms, but everyone critiqued them. They're like, oh, this is like a college uniform, it's not an NFL uniform. Dude, Best Buy's playing in Los Angeles right now. What does it matter? And by Best Buy, I'm referring to the Los Angeles Rams. They decided to go with an interesting uniform look. I like it. Interesting, though. But you don't see many changes. Like, the Rams also with the new look is a good change, as much as people hate it. They definitely could have done more with their uniforms, but as much as people hate the look, like, they definitely could have... It could have been worse. But, like, a new look is good. The Chargers have a very similar look, though. The Raiders moving to Las Vegas is like a different look. Although they have the same branding and everything, maybe they changed that a bit. But the NFL, who normally is a very, I guess you can say, old-fashioned in the way they do things, almost like the MLB, having a couple new looks, I think will help them, because it helps more people watch. Because, like, let's be real. You're going to want to see the Washington football team play one of their first couple games, because you're going to want to see Chase Young. You're going to want to see the new uniforms. You're going to want to see the new branding. Like, that's just kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. The same way everyone's going to be so excited to go watch the Bengals play their first couple games because of Joe Burrow. No one cared about the Bengals last year.
No.
I mean, honestly, you're a Bengals fan. Like, I have nothing against you, but, like, realistically, like, you guys had, 1-2 wins? It was kind of like, oh, we're playing the Bengals, whatever. Like, even for, like, the teams that were having a bad year, it was, oh, we're playing the Bengals. And nothing against the Bengals, but, like, everyone's going to start to watch the Bengals now. That's just kind of how things go. One exciting thing, and all of a sudden you're going to want to watch, which people are going to want to watch the Rams play in their Best Buy uniforms. They're going to want to watch the Redskins or the Washington football team play with their new look. They're going to want to watch Joe Burrow. It happens in all sports. Like, LaMelo Ball, when he gets drafted, he can get drafted. I don't know who is terrible this year besides the Warriors, because let's be real, they have Curry. Like, they just had injury troubles. But, like, if he goes to the Knicks are going to have so much hype. They're going to have 5 times the hype that R.J. Barrett brought them. And R.J. Barrett brought a lot of hype to New York.
Yeah.
I fell into that hype train, because I drafted R.J. Barrett in a fantasy basketball league. That was a bad idea.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, but LaMelo, I mean, I actually want to bring up one more thing before we go into this, but LaMelo Ball, his camp said that he wants to play for the Knicks.
Yeah, but again, that comes down to
the lottery and stuff, obviously.
Because if the Knicks have, like, the 10th pick, if they get that, because let's be real, the Knicks have terrible luck at the moment.
Yeah.
He's not going down that far. LaMelo Ball is going to be a 1-2 pick, and I know we talked about this previously. He is probably the most NBA-ready player other than R.J. Hampton. And that's only due to the fact that he has played professional basketball. Like, going from college to professional basketball is a huge step. Some players can make the impact right away, like Zion, like Trae Young, like some players can do that right away. But, like, someone like Luka Doncic, who I would say made a pretty big impact, did it pretty fast, but he played professionally for years. He was not used to the same competition, but, like, playing professional basketball is so different than playing college basketball. James Wiseman, who played about 4 games for Memphis, he's very, very good. But he has not played in a while. He's just been training. He didn't even get the college experience that I guess you could say is like bare minimum to, like, for the NBA. And he hasn't played professional. So I think, like, LaMelo Ball and R.J. Hampton are the most NBA ready. Although I can see James Wiseman being better than both of them. I do feel like LaMelo might be the best ball, but I think that's because all around he is the best. But if I had to go team wise, I would probably take Lonzo over LaMelo because Lonzo is a straight up like just a solid passer. Where LaMelo, who can pass, is more similar to Trey Young in a way of like scoring from the point guard position. Not that it's a bad thing, because it's not. Like if you're gonna have anyone put up points, it doesn't really matter, does it? But yeah, back to like the main point. Like I think he's just the most NBA ready. But that is as we get closer to the NBA season and the how they like whenever the lottery comes out, we will definitely talk about that more because that I really want to get into talking about the draft and the upcoming possible rookies. That is definitely something that I want to get into.
There's actually some NFL news if we want